Hi, I'm Daniel Licus, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is my co host on Abstract Essay. And congratulations, partner,
Thank
for
you.
being a best-selling author, none other than Mr. Sal Cosenza.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. It's weird not doing an abstract essay episode right now.
Usually we're doing abstract essay at this point, but thank you for being part on Book 101 review again, and let's talk about your best-selling book. Tell
Yeah,
us about it.
thank you. So it's right here. It's taken over the screen. Here's some shameless product, plugging.
Yes.
Um, so it's a studio edition of my book that was first released last year.
Again, Mr. Sal, show the book.
Oh
You're
yeah,
in.
so it's called Manhattan: The Rising War, but it's got this new studio edition stamp on it. Right? And what
Mm-hmm.
exactly does that mean? It
What does
means
it
that
mean?
it's an immersive, I kind of saw this version as an immersive art exhibition, right? Because I don't know if you recall, a year ago, but the book originally was based around a series of paintings that I created and a ton of concept drawings. And so now they're all included in one sort of bundle, which is why I'm calling it a studio edition. So you'll see, the paintings themselves, you'll get treated to basically a curated set of concept sketches, concept drawings, production paintings, and even notes, like book notes. I have one where it's a napkin, it's like a Southwest Airlines napkin with some book scribbles on it. So I sort of took everything from the last really like 25 years and put it all in a book. And so this is like a definitive version. It's got the narrative, it's got the story, but it's also got sort of the behind the scenes stuff and a few extras. There's actually a QR code that has access to a short story sort of tie-in. So it's all Manhattan that you ever wanted to know in 300 plus pages.
It's all a Manhattan architectures, people. So, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, especially your talents, Mr. Saul. Thank you.
I feel like I'm on Oprah.
Yes, we did already talk about it. This book of Mr. Saul, like last year, if I'm not
Yeah, it came
mistaken.
out. So it originally was published in June of 2024, and so a year later, I worked with a group that really guided me and sort of, here's what you should do, here's how it should look, move this here, change that, add this. And so a year later, I think I'm really happy with the final sort of version of it, right? This sort of studio edition. I'd never done anything like this before, but I think that it's really enlightening to sort of see it all come together. It sort of tells the story that I was originally, always wanting to tell, because this book was always a marriage between art and written word. Uh, but now it finally is.
Definitely, I'm hoping for more and more series like this to come, Mr. Saul, don't you think?
I hope so. Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas. So we'll see. We'll see how this does. It's doing well so far, as you mentioned. I'm grateful it hit the bestseller list when it came out
Of course.
on Amazon in a couple genre categories. So the reception has been really awesome.
So, Mr. Saul, what make this studio edition become best-selling?
Uh, I I don't know. I think people like this idea of sort of peeling behind the, looking behind the curtain, so to speak. I think that, people like the making of something, right? They want to see that, and I think that having this sort of artistic component to my story really helps enrich the overall presentation. Um, and again, like they were meant to go together, right? Like if you go through the book, you'll see the original sketches that I had created starting in 2002 and ending in 2020 during the height of COVID. So, this whole process, the work you'll see in this book, aside from the novel itself, you will see work that stretches the periods between 9/11 to COVID, because that's when the 5 paintings were completed and when all of the sketches were done. So, I think people just like, I feel like people like to see that. I know I enjoyed it. I enjoyed sort of laying it all out and sort of sequencing it. So it's more than just a novel, right? It's like a novel and then sort of takes you into how the novel came to be.
So, Mr. Saul, can you tell us the research process that you did through this edition of yours, studio edition?
Yeah, that's a really awesome question. So as an artist, I mean, as you know, right? I like to draw, I like to paint. I've been doing it for like 30 years. And so you know, I start generating, I generate a lot of stuff. I make a lot of drawings. So the first sort of bit of research was to sort of do a deep dive into my drawing archives, find the sort of the best sketches, the best drawings that were most appropriate to the story. Um, because there's a lot of horrible sketches that I created, and then there's some that were really sort of worth showcasing. But I had to sort of go through those archives and pick which ones would make the cut and which ones would not. So there's that. In terms of writing the book, it's a novel, right? So it's a mix of historical fiction with urban fantasy. So the research wasn't really it involving, right? I have a background in history, so I kind of knew a lot of New York's history going in, but I did research. I had books that I sort of kept nearby as I wrote it, right? Some of them, I would say the most textbook one is the book called Mannahatta, which traces New York's history from when it was just a forested island to a metropolis. So that was a constant sort of companion for me as I wrote the book. Other books were N.K. Jemison's "The City We Became," which also talks about it sort of involves an anthropomorphic city. Um, so yeah, I think I was just inspired by a lot of different sources in creating this.
Mr. Saul, given the title, the studio edition, and the visceral potential of a war in Manhattan, were you influenced by specific films, TV shows, or video games?
Hmm. Well, yeah, I was influenced by the newsreels, right? So you and I think, are old enough to remember 9/11 when it first happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sort of constant coverage, right? That was really somewhere near the start of the sort of 24-hour news cycle that we're still part of, and it's even worse now, right? Because we all have social media, so we're constantly fed news and right footage, and so that stuck with me. That was the horror that was 9/11 was what sort of generated this story, right? And so I don't want to say I was inspired by 9/11, but I want to say that the tragedy sort of caused me to create this story, if that makes sense. because it
Makes
deals with
sense.
New York losing two of its own buildings. I remember there was a helicopter, uh, when the Twin Towers were on fire, right? Like right after they got hit by the planes, there were helicopters sort of circling around the two towers. And I remember one specific sort of newsreel or whatever, right? News footage where the Twin Tower, one of the towers is starting to collapse, and as the plume of smoke is erupting, right behind it, I guess because of the lens of the camera, it was able to sort of take Midtown Manhattan's skyscrapers like Chrysler Building, Empire State, all of those, and really make it look like they were right next to the Twin Towers, right? And so that shot always stuck with me, because I interpreted it as the Chrysler Building and the other buildings watching the Twin Towers sort of die, right? Like they're watching them collapse. And that was the sort of generative seed behind this entire series, right? So the first painting in this series deals with the buildings sort of witnessing the Twin Towers ascend off into the heavens, having just been killed.
Mr. Saul, if this studio edition had a soundtrack, what would it be sound like? Is it relentless tension of a tickling clock, or dissonant of a chords of a chaos, or moment of haunting silence?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that because as I wrote the book, I was constantly listening to music. A lot of, I would say, as you're reading it, I would say on the background you should have anything by Tchaikovsky, anything by Gershwin. So a lot of sort of orchestral soundtracks. When you think of George Gershwin's music, Rhapsody in Blue, uh, and others, right? Those were constantly like in my ear as I was writing. So I would imagine a lot of that, and a lot of, yeah, like you're saying, sort of dramatic music, almost soundtrack score. Imagine like, I guess, John Williams music, which
Yes.
I listened to a lot of soundtracks because I think it helps when you're listening to music, at least for me, it helped me sort of try to find the pulse of the scene to try to capture the energy of it. So, many times I would be listening to works by Tchaikovsky, for example, and then I would find that my writing was speeding up, right? Or it was like I was writing an action scene, and it was sort of responsive to the music that I was listening to.
So, Mr. Saul, what contemporary anxieties does Manhattan, the rising war, tap into? Is it commentary on political polarization, the fragility of urban society, or threat of technology of something else?
Well, so the first two categories are definitely present here. That this is a this story is unabashedly anti-authoritarian and very pro-democracy, right? So
Mhm.
there are crowds of people who will be turned off by that, but I myself am very pro-democracy. So this is sort of saying when a city when a city is sort of utopian in that way, where everyone has a voice, where everyone is sort of not killing each other and thinking about sort of higher things like the arts, like creativity, uh, we can do amazing things, right? So this is a culture, in this sort of in this version of Manhattan, there was a lot of bloodshed before the first buildings were born, right? So in order for the buildings to be born, humanity had to sort of stop trying to kill itself all the time, right? So that's kind of that was sort of another sort of underlying element. Um, and we can, all you have to do is turn on the news, right? Today,
Yes.
nowadays, and you'll get horrible stories, and you'll see stories where the fragility of democracy is discussed, and it's scary that we even have to question that, right? But this is the world we're in. But I think the last part of your question was talking about technology and the fear of it, but this is actually an embrace of technology,
Mm.
because these buildings, they're supernaturally created, but it's also a mix between sort of science and magic, right? So it's very pro technology, right?
Mm. Mr. Solve the story or likely explore the conflict between security and freedom. What difficult choices do your character face when the social order breaks down?
Hmm. I mean, that's the sort of crux of the plot. So the social order does break down, and then the buildings have to sort of decide what do they do from there. So the buildings and the Manhattanites, which are the people of the city, they work together, right? They're not opposing. They don't oppose each other. But there are factions in this version of Manhattan that do not prescribe to this idea of living, breathing buildings, and so therefore they hate it, right? They want to destroy these buildings, and so it becomes sort of a story of survival, um, a story of you know kind of which side are you on, right? It's like you can either love these buildings and what they represent and what they embody, or not. And so most of the humans in the city choose to love the buildings because they like what they represent. But then there are factions in the city that totally oppose uh, the existence of these creatures, and so they therefore uh, get violent and try to end them.
Mm.
And that's sort of how the whole rising war idea happens, right? And so I tie it into a sort of fantasy version of 9/11, and then it gets into sort of a War of the Worlds style, tale.
So, Mr. Sal, this will be a series, a quartet, or what is your
Hmm.
plan to this novel?
I think it's not going to be a series. I think it's kind of a one-off, because
One off.
what I did was I took, I had the blueprint, I had the storyboard, and it was those 5 paintings, and I turned those 5 pieces into one cohesive novel. If I do another one in this series,
Mhm.
I would have to produce, I feel like I would have to produce 5 more paintings, right? Because I can't have one without the other. Like this book would not be in existence without those paintings.
Mm.
So I need some time.
Yes. To back up your best-selling book, Manhattan: The Rising War. So, Mr. Saul, as an debut author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My long-term goals are to produce more novels of this nature, if not from the same world. I love the idea of turning some of my painting series into novels, and as you know, right, we've done abstract essay, and you've allowed me the opportunity to showcase a lot of those painting series that I've created.
Yes.
So I think, going forward, I'd love to uh, create novelizations of particular series. there are a few that stand out to me that I feel I could really get a nice novel or short story collection out of, right? So that's a long-term goal. Short term is, I got a book signing coming up for this book. It's I love to announce it. If you're in Arizona, Daniel, or
Yes.
anyone, it's going to be happening in North Scottsdale, um, at a studio. And actually, Jenny Richaud, who we interviewed for Abstract Essay,
Uh,
she's she's reached out to me recently and said, do you want to get a book signing going? I was like, holy cow, yes, let's do it. So it's going to happen December 6th, which is a Saturday.
okay.
And the best thing about this is we're going to raise money for Honor Health Cancer Care. And so
Mm-hmm.
all of the proceeds from that night from book sales will go to Honor Health Cancer Care.
We will
So
support you, Mr. Sal, with a good heart like that. We need to support you. And please do come over to all my podcasts and let's talk about it and let's promote to the world. So, good luck to your goals. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
I would say start writing, even if it's a little bit each day. But I would say just the more you do that, the more it will add up, right? And then before you know it, you'll have 20 pages, 50 pages, 150 pages, right? And so just start. All it takes is for you to start. This book took me about 12 years to write.
Mm.
So there was a lot of moments of, I call it development hell, right? Where it just sort of sits. I moved. There was a pandemic, as we all know, right? So there's a lot of stuff preventing it. But I think if you just stick with it and hold on to it, no matter how long it takes, you'll finish that book. You'll get it out there.
Yes, baby step people and stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, and share to the world, just like Mr. Sal Cosenza. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey, Mr. Sal?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Yes, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, that influence. I love this book by Pete Hamill called Forever. It's a novel. It's sort of it's another Manhattan related novel about a character who is given immortality so long as he doesn't leave Manhattan, right? So if he steps foot off of Manhattan Island, he loses his life. Um, that book inspired me, and I reread it every so often. And then there's also another book I highly recommend that's sort of similar to this is Delirious New York. It's been around since I think the 1970s, but it features the work by an architect named called Ren Koolhaas, and who was married at the time to Madeline Riesendorp, who's a artist. And it's this sort of speculative book about what New York could be, and it gets into different examples of New York's crazy, delirious history. Uh, so I always recommend those two.
Thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Sal. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because our abstract essay with Mr. Sal is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my Bible verses 101 in its first season. My book 101 review in fifth season as well, and comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in its fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in fourth season, as well as Movie 101 Review and Music 101 and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Sal, tell us, what do you hope is the lasting conversation readers have ever or after experiencing Manhattan the Rising War Studio Edition?
I would love them to take away from this a sense of, if they have work that they want to showcase, that you could combine it, right? If you want to work on a book and show your behind the scenes process stuff, you can. I think we're in an age now where sort of all the old rules are gone, right? Like what a novel should be. So again, it goes back to your question about, you just got to start, right? Like if you have an idea, you just got to do it. But I hope that people see this book as sort of an art exhibition slash, really interesting and dramatic story.
Indeed, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Sal.
Thank you.
Thank you, and hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your best-selling book?
Thanks. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. You could find it on barnesandnoble.com. I ask that if you get it on Amazon, leave a review, because that always helps. That gives this book sort of sea legs, right?
Yes.
And reach out at salcosenza.com anytime. As Daniel knows, right? We love to hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say as fellow
Yes.
creatives.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Sal Cosenza, because if you support him, for sure, more and more Manhattan, the rising wall, or rising war will rise. So, Mr. Sal, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. See you soon on Abstract Essay.
Yes, more to come, people. See you soon.